Meet Linda and Daniel, a young, vibrant couple whose love story captured the hearts of friends and family across Lagos. Linda, a headstrong young woman with a flair for the dramatic, worked as a fashion influencer, always on top of the latest trends. Daniel, on the other hand, was a more reserved type, level-headed and practical, working as a software developer. Together, they balanced each other out perfectly, so it seemed. As their wedding day approached, Linda and Daniel were swept up in the whirlwind of planning. Daniel had a clear preference. He wanted everything fresh, clean and new, especially Linda's wedding gown. "Let's get your gown custom made, love," he suggested. "It's your special day. It should be something made just for you." But Linda, as stubborn as she was, had other plans. She has found a stunning gown in the city that looked like it was made for royalty. A flowing white piece with intricate lace, pearls and a vintage touch that made her feel like a princess. It had been available for rent, so she could save money to splurge on other details of the wedding. "Daniel," she argued, "why waste so much money on a gown I will wear only once? This one is beautiful and costs half the price." Despite his unease, Daniel relented. But on the day she picked up the gown, something airy lingered in the air. Linda didn't notice it. Her mind was too consumed by the excitement and the image of herself walking down the outside. But as she held the gown, she felt a cold shiver down her spine. The wedding day itself was beautiful, and Linda looked ethereal as she walked down the outside in the rented gown. Daniel's worries forgotten in the joy of the moment. Friends and family celebrated late into the night, congratulating the couple on their union. But once the newlyweds moved into their new home, a creeping darkness began to settle over them. It started with Linda's strange nightmares. Each night, she would wake up sweating, seeing shadows and hearing whispers in their room. At first, she chalked it up to the stress of settling into married life, but soon the terror escalated. The newlyweds began to argue over trivial things. Daniel, who was usually calm and forgiving, found himself easily agitated, snapping at Linda for the smallest mistakes. Linda, equally disturbed by the tension, found herself irrationally angry with Daniel, as if some unseen force were pushing her to despise him. Weeks passed, and Linda discovered she was pregnant. For a while, the tension lifted, and the young couple felt a glimmer of joy, a new beginning. But as quickly as the hope had arrived, it vanished. One night, Linda woke up with piercing pain, blood staining her nightgown, and in a matter of hours, she lost the baby. In the coming months, life continued to unravel. Friends began avoiding the couple, sensing the hostility and despair that now clung to their home. Linda fell into depression, haunted by the sound of soft whispers and cold touches that seemed to follow her in the house. Daniel grew irritable and withdrawn. unable to understand the series of misfortunes and heartache that had befallen them. Then, one blistering afternoon, a mentally deranged man stumbled into their gated compound, begging for water. Daniel, though won from grief and frustration, brought the man a cup of water. Watching him carefully, the man gulped down the water with relief before locking his intense, vacant eyes on Daniel. "Your troubles, they come from the gown," he murmured, voice barely a whisper. "The spirit of a bride. She is trapped in that gown, wanting what you have, what she lost." Daniel's blood turned to ice as the words left the man's lips. Linda, who had been standing at the doorway watching the exchange, gasped. Her face turned pale as she clutched the doorframe, her eyes widening with horror. Daniel shook his head, unable to process what the man had said. "What? What do you mean? Who is she?" The man, his gaze distant as if he were seeing things beyond the ordinary, continued in a low, hollow tone. "The bride wore that gown on her wedding day, just like your wife, but on the way to the church, her car, it crashed." He shivered, glancing around as though fearful of being overheard. "Her spirit is not at rest. She died in that gown, and is cursed. That is why your home has turned dark, why everything has gone wrong since that day." A chill ran down Linda's spine as she remembered her strange nightmares, the whispers, and the cold shadows she had felt following her around all this while. All of it suddenly made a twisted kind of sense. She looked at Daniel, her face striking with fear and guilt. "Daniel, I am so sorry. I should have listened to you. I didn't know." The man raised a trembling finger towards the house. "If you want peace, take that gown far from here. Bury it, burn it, do whatever you must, but until then, the spirit will haunt you, make your love bitter and your home barren." With those final chilling words, the man shuffled away, muttering to himself as he disappeared down the street. For a moment, Daniel and Linda stood there in silence, staring at each other as the weight of the man's revelation settled over them. Linda was the first to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "We need to get rid of it, Daniel, tonight." That evening, under the dim light of a dying street lamp, the couple drove to a deserted field on the outskirts of the city. Linda clutched the wedding gown, wrapped in an old sheet, her hands shaking as she held it. Daniel dosed the fabric with kerosene, and without another word, he struck a match and tossed it onto the gown. The flames leaped to life, illuminating the night with an eerie, flickering glow. But as the gown burned, Linda felt an overwhelming sorrow, as if a wave of grief was passing through her. Not her own, but something ancient and powerful. She swayed, clutching her chest, feeling the weight of the bride's tragic story as the gown disintegrated into ash. In the weeks that followed, the change in their home was immediate. Linda's nightmares stopped, the tense atmosphere lifted, and Daniel became the patient, loving husband she had known. Soon after, Linda discovered she was pregnant again, and this time the pregnancy held steady, filling their home with joy and excitement. Months later, As the baby's cry filled the hospital room, Linda held her daughter close, smiling at Daniel through tears of joy. In her heart, she sent a silent prayer, hoping the spirit of the bride has finally found peace. As they took their daughter home, Linda glanced out the window, feeling a lightness in the air. But in the reflection, just for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a young woman in a wedding gown smiling back at her. A woman she didn't know but would never forget. The spirit was finally free, and so were they.